Oh my lords, you're back with us here on the Just Three Gents review of AEW Dynamite on the Biconics Wrestling podcast channel. I am so excited we're all here today. Look at them dancing around, doing it, and we've got the original Three Gents tonight on the program. It is El Jefe, Mikey on the ones and twos, wearing the bucket hat of Writer's Doom. We've got Ashton Kutcher, or at least Professor in a trucker hat. We have to say he's punking all of us just by being here. And of course, JVL here. I am the captain of this unseaworthy vessel, bringing us into the deeper waters that is AEW Dynamite, full of holes that it is. Plot holes, every type of hole.
Yeah,
but not Nia Jax's.
There's a lot of holes in this one.
We are so excited to be here to go through Dynamite with you as well. But remember, as we go through this, please follow us on all the socials. Go to BC WrestlePod on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Get that bell for notifications. And leave comments for us. Interact with us because the algorithm wants to eat us for breakfast. And we need your help to stay alive. I am jazzed right now. I am so happy to be here because I get to talk about a very up and down episode of AEW Dynamite with two of my very good friends. Gentlemen, just first thoughts. Did you enjoy the overarching arc of the night? Did it make any sense to you, or did it feel like it was kind of a filler to get us to somewhere else?
I had to go all in on from the.
No, that was a couple months ago.
Yeah, I get all in, all out. They're all here. I went in on the book of Simon Miller, sort of embracing goofy wrestling for life. A few moments of this thing. I keep making the mistake of watching these shows at the gym, so. Sometimes you're really intense and I'm watching it on the bike and whatever, and then sometimes I'm just laughing out loud and people are looking at me like, what are you doing? So there were some moments where I was laughing out loud, but I probably shouldn't have been laughing that loud with earbuds in. But there were some good matches though. There was a lot of good work here. Again, we talk about this a lot, but we can see it ahead of time. Like you're writing yourself into a corner where you're going, what does this even mean sort of stuff. I will say the fans in Montreal, fantastic. The chants on point. Very well done the other night.
I was having nostalgic flashbacks to Elimination Chamber being there. The Bell Center is one of the best places to go see wrestling. It was quite good. Mikey, how did you feel about the evening? It moved pretty fast, I think, right?
Yeah, and it was actually really well paced, which is a big plus that I have of this particular episode. Though I do agree with the professor. I thought there was some awesome matches, though there were a couple of segments that did leave me with a lot of questions.
Sure.
And then there was a match we were supposed to get, but then it didn't happen. And I'm getting flashbacks of how horribly booked MJF and Jay White's feud was leading into Full Gear. And it's rearing its ugly head now. And poor Mimosa No Mames Joe is stuck in the crosshairs.
Yeah. Fijian Jose.
Samoa. Huh.
Yes, we will get to that at some point. Talk about Samoa Ho quite nicely later on.
I think Samoa Ho is a different guy. I'm just saying.
He's related to Don Ho for all of the 70s wrestling fans.
There's a lot of jokes per second. Go.
We're going right now because we jump right into one of the hardest hitting matches on the card of the evening, and a match I also found that the ending still made the loser look stronger than when he walked in. It was really strange to see that way. We had two beefy men in Moxley and Roosh taking on each other in the Continental Classic. And boys, these were two divided styles in terms of Tranquilo versus Death Jitsu, but they went to town on each other. Oh, give me your just read on how. Was this the right way to have the right person win at this point and make them undefeated? Did you feel like maybe we should have had a draw here to draw things out? How could we have made this better than it was?
Roosh's chops are still top 5 for me. Some of those, whereas other folks chop and it sounds like a gunshot, his sound like a cymbal. Brang! Like it's a gong going off. I like this match. I enjoyed starting Dynamite with it. I think that's AEW does this. They start Dynamite a lot with Jon Moxley because it's sort of, we're going to peak now and then ride this wave that Jon Moxley's given us. And until that changes, I think it's going to work. I thought the match itself in the middle got a little clunky to me. I love it when they go into the audience, particularly in places like the Bell Center where they're going to love that sort of stuff. It was kind of interesting that there was a single chair with a spotlight and a special right there. Like, this is going to happen.
And Moxley like awkwardly sat in it.
Yes. I'm just going to sit here. Oh, okay. Have a good time. So again, this whole tournament that we're amidst, and Mikey and I were talking a little bit before we started about writing into yourself a corner. What are you trying to show? I love that we kind of have this Swerve and Moxley train wreck coming, which is great and leads to a promo we'll talk about later. I don't dislike that. And on the surface, if you had told me these results a month ago, I would have been like, well, that's boring. That being said, they're kind of earning these spots, which I absolutely love. Roosh is growing on me. I go, in the beginning, I was like, yeah, maybe. And now it's sort of warming up to his work more. I thought that worked great in the ring. The announcers, again, didn't do any favors to this match. Taz doing 2 different callbacks to John Moxley getting concussed a while back, just talking about it. Which is sort of like, why you gotta bring that up, man? There's so many other things we could talk about. But no, it's a solid match. Just in the middle, there were a few moments where I think they were communicating and again, Moxley sort of is off the cuff with a lot of things. I think Roosh had a few planned spots. I might be wrong. That's just how it felt to me.
Mikey, how did you feel about this opening match?
I actually really enjoyed it. Again, I'm a big fan of Roosh. I'm happy to see John Moxley in this kind of capacity where he's not necessarily having to bleed all the time. Because
this is like 2 or 3 in a row he hasn't bled, which is interesting.
Yeah, because I feel that, and I swear that AEW is listening to this, because that was our biggest complaint for the last couple months with Moxley. So he would bleed in every single match. Now they're kind of pulling it back a little bit. So I feel that Roosh passing out and losing, I think, still works because, again, it's Roosh. He's known for whipping people with an electrical cable.
Sure. Is this the second submission this way for Moxley? Has he got a pin the first time, right? I want to say.
He did.
The last 2 have been these chokeouts, right? Or am I mistaken? Is that somebody else?
I think it was still a pin last time as well.
Was it? Okay, maybe I'm crazy.
He got him to tap out.
Or tap out. I'm just saying, I kind of, as someone who watched wrestling for a long time, jumped to MMA, and now I'm kind of back in wrestling, I kind of like it. I like the storytelling aspect of a tap out or a choke out and what that does.
Mm-hmm.
It just gives us something new and different. Because these countouts, and we'll talk about a few almost missed countouts tonight. There were a few 2.9s where I was like, oh, that almost ruined everything. I like it. We've kind of earned that now that it seems like society and wrestling culture kind of knows what a tap out is or a choke out is. I think that's fun. And you're right. It made Roosh strong. I had to choke you out to make this happen.
And then he popped back up right afterward, but not selling it. Like you see in some of those videos where you'll pass out and then you'll come back, and he sold it correctly. Like he didn't know where he was.
That's an MMA trope, and I love it. The guy doesn't know he's out or he's been knocked out, and he takes on the ref for a hot second. The moment I saw that, I was like, that's a great choice. Anyone who's seen that knows exactly what he did.
Exactly. Overall, a really hot opener to open the show up. And again, this Continental Classic has been refreshing in a lot of ways because it's like the G1 Climax where you can get invested in these things, but you know there's still more to build to. It's not just one, you're done, and then you're done with the storyline. Mm-hmm. This is continuing over a good amount of time. So, loving to see that.
Yeah, and we'll talk in a minute about the match where someone is mathematically eliminated. That's my only problem is now where you go with that person who's there. It's not quite like FIFA, right? Where like, oh, okay, this country's eliminated, but they're playing for the pride of their country or playing spoiler. What do you do with a wrestler that's done that? I.e. Eddie Kingston, who's kind of heading that direction. Like, what are you going to do in that instance? I don't know. It's interesting.
My thing is, I can think if I think with a Booker hat, either you have someone play spoiler, like you said, where they spoil someone getting into this thing, or you play up an injury angle and the next person up in the amount of stuff, if they even get a draw or something, can be knocked into that part of that tournament. So
yeah, I didn't even think of that. That's an interesting point. That would be a huge work, though. You'd have to really earn that.
They're really going for it, so I feel like they're going to try for something like that. Who and honestly knows? But speaking of an injury angle, we then had at the top of the ramp, Roddy Strong in the Kingdom. Next Strong comes out, and Roddy is now yelling everyone's name multiple times.
Renee!
Samoa!
Samoa! This is where the Montreal crowd started to win me for the whole episode, because they were all in on just yelling names at that point. I thought that was fun.
Did you enjoy the try to make it look cool, like we threw the wheelchair off the stage and landed perfectly and just rolled right into place?
Okay, This whole Roderick Strong angle that we've been following for, I guess, what, 8 or 9 months now? Most of the year, right?
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah. Has had this weird, goofy slant to it. I wish they committed all the way to it. That being said, something always goes wrong during these spots. The hospital one was weird because of the bed. If you remember, there was another one that happened in the background where like it looked like he tripped trying to walk to Adam Cole. And then this one with the wheelchair. Dude can't catch a break on these promos. There's always something funny that we're talking about instead of the promo.
Of course. But yeah, so Roddy just goes into the fact that he's warning people that MJF's not to be trusted. It couldn't be really bad, and that he's going to have to take it out, and he's not going to stand for being looked over anymore. And he stands miraculously out of his wheelchair in Montreal, and we're moving on to that. It's going to end up being he's part of something. Who knows?
Kevin Nash did it better back in '97 with the blanket and the cast and the thing. So after that, I'm like, any wheelchair spot, you kind of have to do more than just that.
Even Zack Ryder did it better because he took the bump in the chair.
Yeah, sure. Yes, you're right. So, I don't know. I think it's fun. I think it gives him something to do. I kind of want him in the ring again. I'd like to see him work again because he is great. And he's playing it up now, acting-wise, and we'll talk acting tonight in a minute, but he's getting there. They're figuring it out. Again, he's been written into a corner for so long. It's just sort of like, great, we're just going to stagnate until we know what's next. So, well, we'll see. And Renee's doing a great job keeping everything light and energetic as she always does. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a tough part.
Mikey!
Say something, Mikey.
Mikey!
Your key?
Mikey!
So, I'm over it. Well, I'm over the way that Roderick Strong is like yelling everyone's name, and that's not because of Roderick Strong. A certain Los Angeles crowd at Full Gear made me hate it because the whole entire night, I heard like a bunch of people the whole entire night during almost every single match yell Adam for no reason. It made me twitch an eyeball, and I may or may not have almost committed a homicide. I don't know. I like Roderick Strong, I really, really do, but for me personally, I'm kind of over this storyline. Again, I feel that we're extending it because with Adam Cole being hurt, I feel that we were supposed to pull the trigger on this a little bit sooner than we did. Of course, injuries are always going to throw storylines for a loop, a la if you watched the NXT review we did last night, Wesley is out for a year because he can't feel anything below his waist, so he has to go get major surgery. It's so bad.
Yeah.
A year.
But that just shows that like you cannot plan around some of the stuff like now, and you know even the angles we see they could be more real than we know.
I think my biggest issue with this is again the Kingdom are just as set dressing, so to speak. Like, yes, they're wrestling somewhat from time to time, and they're like supporting Roderick Strong. I was like, you guys are. What happened? We went from being awesome in Ring of Honor to be very mid in AEW, and they're trying their best. Listen, I give
they're
Matt
waiting
Taven,
for Kyle O'Reilly.
Apparently, according to reports, I don't know, man. I think that again, minus my personal bias and how much I hated, Roderick Strong's yelling people's names now because of a certain Full Gear incident. I think this is a fine angle. And I didn't mind this. There was another one that happened that I'm gonna yell about because I'm over that one more than I am with this one.
That one I'm excited about. My problem now with Roderick Strong is that, okay, I'm gonna say this. You two can hate me for it. If the neck brace is for the rest of his career, I love it. If it's just for this angle, what a boring thing. The rest of his career has to be, I'm in a neck brace or something awful.
You want him to Bobby Heenan it, basically?
Yeah, basically forever. Because there's just a part of me that's like, make that your shtick. Because I'm gonna say it. If you're gonna fall into generic white guy, this keeps you out of generic white guy forever. As the dude who's always injured and plays injured. Because it's funny. It gives him something to push up against, unless you really want to write him something huge. Which, and you're absolutely right. The Adam Cole injury probably got him stuck in a plot line. So that's tough. But I think it's kind of funny if he was forever in a wheelchair or in crutches or in something. He's just never well.
Or he gets well and then that week re-injures something, so becomes again having to deal with it.
And it should have nothing to do with wrestling. It should be like, oh no, a car, boom, a hot dog truck, boom, oh no, this, like something happens to him. Ridiculous.
What is this, the NXT parking lot?
Is this mahogany? Bow! Like something just happened.
Nah, seriously, the NXT parking lot's the most dangerous place in America.
Oh yeah.
You know what else is a dangerous place though? Backstage at AEW.
Oh my god.
Your
You don't know who you're gonna run into.
Golden. Anyway, keep going.
I'm doing what I can here. Basically, you never know who you're going to run into. You're not going to get the interview you think you're going to get now. It is fully realistic that people are going to walk on in a real way instead of like the magic door from somewhere. As Renee is standing outside MJF's locker room, waiting to talk to the champ, and who should appear but a wild Hangman who wants to cut a promo on Swerve and then interact with MJF. And yet another person is drawn into the MJF Vortex of Doom. Boys, how sincere did you feel the Swerve promo was versus the MJF from Hangman? Because it felt like that it changed dramatically halfway through.
The Swerve Moxley or the Swerve?
No. So Hangman cut the promo on Swerve, but he wasn't done with him.
MJF
and
came
then,
in.
and then
I'm sorry.
completely shifted when he talked to MJF. So I'm saying, like, how were they different? How did you feel? Did you feel he was more sincere in the first part than the second part?
So as acting teacher, I feel like the writer gives you that and says, this is what's going to happen, this is what you're going to do, make the most out of this moment, we're going to plug you both into this thing. I think they tried to do too much as writers, and Mikey can concur or haven't thought of that. I think they tried to do much as a writer, and they leaned that all on Hangman to sort of, hey, tie this up into a bow so we can jump off the next 90 minutes. Go. That's a tall order for any actor. Here, spit all this exposition about Swerve, now turn to MJF and spit all this exposition about MJF and your past and your history and what matters. Get a few witty quips in there, build just the tiniest bit of heat, and then you're done. MJF, who's smooth as hell, only had one job: show up, throw some insults, make eye contact. Adam Page had some heavy lifting here. I'm not saying he didn't do it well. I'm saying that's a tall order for anyone to cut copy like that. That's kind of my take.
Mikey, do you agree? Do you feel like it could have been done better?
So, I think the first half of Hangman's promo talking about not being done with Swerve makes me excited.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, sure.
I'm excited about that, and I feel that was more believable given the fact that this is the feud of AEW for me, of the year for me. Best written feud, and
Well,
it's
that
only
is-
been the last 2.5 months.
That and those images are now burned into our head for the next few months.
Yes. Now,
But, yeah.
At first I didn't mind the Swerve, no pun intended, into Hangman interacting with MJF. The issue I really had a problem with is that it started off okay, and then it just went into schoolyard taunts back and forth. And I
Sure.
also felt like this went on for like maybe 3 minutes too long. Because this was a lengthy back and forth between the two. And even though, oh man, Hangman might be the devil, I was like, no, let's not kid ourselves here. Of everybody that is coming after MJF, Hangman is kind of like his own island. He's been dealing with Swerve for the last 2.5 months, and there's no really rhyme or reason. Of everyone in the Elite, I feel like there's more credence to throw Kenny at MJF than
Sure.
Hangman, because Hangman's just chill. He be out here vibing on his own. Like,
Yeah.
he's just existing. But
So it's also funny, and I pulled it up to make sure I'm not paraphrasing too much. Renee twice goes to walk away. Like twice she has the mic up and goes,
I gotta
"Huh,"
go.
like, and takes a breath like she's gonna say, "I'm back to you," or something else, and she's just kind of, oh, you're still going. Oh, you're still there, because she's trying to cue the end for Samoa Joe to come out.
Yeah.
Samoa Joe comes out and is fire and brimstone.
Samoa Joe was the best part of the second half
yeah,
for me.
nails
Because he was
that.
honestly, he's like, Hangman,
Yes.
I need you to leave MJF. What are you doing? We have business to. The Samoa Joe is speaking truth. He's like, bro, we have things we need to deal with later tonight. I don't need you causing extra problems just because you have a hissy fit. I was like, Samoa Joe is speaking facts.
Right.
100%. So we go through these promos. We get kind of, a setup for not only the evening, but what could be coming in the next couple of weeks as we get closer and closer to Revolution and to all that stuff coming up. But we move back to the ring to get back to the Continental Classic with a ostensibly undefeated Swerve taking on the very defeated Mark Briscoe. And as commentary said, this was Briscoe's kind of last chance to get on the board here. And as we brought up earlier, what do you do now with Briscoe losing? How does he play spoiler?
I don't
How does
know.
he get stuck there? Because
Can I just say real quick, I'm mad at commentary the way that they worded this. I was like, you guys are horrible. It's just like towards the beginning and the end of the match, it's like mathematically, Mark Briscoe. I was like, fuck math, bro. Like, what is happening?
there's math and there's wrestling math.
Mikey, you're a math teacher.
Listen, mathematics. Here's the thing. How I would have saved this if we're going to be math, right? Mathematically, yes, Mark Briscoe has no chance of winning this thing. But as a commentator, I would still find a positive spin on it because now, if Mark Briscoe adopts the pettiness inside of him, he could go on a Terry spree and upset victories. And he's like, I know I'm not going to win, but I'm going to make sure you don't get any points because middle finger to everybody. Like, that's how I would have spun it. But
and they can also jump the shark at any moment and be like, the next match is worth 6 points or something ridiculous.
I'm getting flashbacks of horrible WWE tournaments
right?
that
Like
did
they,
that.
they could.
Or reality television show twists nobody asked for.
With all the firings this week and all the stuff that was saying by former WWE guys that are with AEW now, I wouldn't be surprised if things are getting pushed that way. I kind of don't want to see it. Also, this match had my move of the night, not the match of the night.
This was my match of the night for me.
That was yours, I see. My move was Swerve's 450 splash that got turned into a pin. The full roll up through it was beautifully done. And well done on Mark Briscoe. But Mikey, tell us why this was your match of the night.
I'm biased because obviously Swerve was involved and Swerve is my dude right now. But I think in a weird way, Swerve and Briscoe complement each other very well. They're kind of very similar. Again, Mark Briscoe is doing the comedy bits with his chicken kung fu stuff, which may or may not be the thumbnail for this video. I'm just putting it out there. But what really caught me off guard in a positive way is that Mark Briscoe kind of pumped the brakes a little bit on the jokiness of his character. And he's like, oh, okay, Swerve is going to be that dude this match. All right, I got to figure out what I got to do to... He answered Swerve for pretty much a lot of what Swerve threw at him, but then Swerve also countered what Mark was bringing him to.
Yeah.
I think this was probably my match of the night only because the way that both Mark and Swerve approached this match is they were countering each other as if they were in the middle of a chess match and or a war game match where there's like surgeons strategically trying to figure out what is the best course of action to go for the jugular, but they had an answer to everything, and it took Swerve every single ounce of his bag that he has to make sure that Briscoe stays down.
I just found it. I've been trying to scroll through it here on my phone. There's about 90 seconds in here where it's just pure like catch wrestling, like let's flow and feel this, and you just see that side of Briscoe, which is not seen all the time and super clean in the middle here. Like, oh wow, and then we're trading pins and counters.
The amateur background came into play for both of them completely.
Yeah.
It was really fun to see that way.
I loved this match. I had a fun time watching it for sure. All the writing and plot lines and other stuff aside, I really enjoy, like you said, they complement each other so well. And this is, we can talk about this on another podcast. I feel like 90% of all the wrestlers are trained by the same 90% of wrestlers. They're all pretty much the same. Oh, I'm gonna say this. We're gonna get heat in the comments. The same stock and trade patterns a lot, and you watch wrestling a lot, and you go, all right, there's 100 moves. There's so many patterns that work these ways, those ways. AEW has more folks willing to change those patterns than other promotions, absolutely. And this was an example of two very different styles kind of really meshing beautifully. Here and there and out of the ring, and we're going to improvise our way from here to there. We're going to do this thing to this thing. Hey, call me on this spot. I feel like the only thing they might have talked about were the last 10 moves, maybe the last 2 or 3 minutes. And then it was like, how we get there? I don't know how we get there. But when we have to bring it home, we know where we're going. That's just how it felt to me. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Fully agree on the journey being kind of wherever they wanted to take it until they had to hit their destination.
Yeah.
It's really fun to kind of see that thing.
And that lariat that Briscoe hit Swerve with was violent.
Vicious.
Very nice.
Vicious. So we had a bit of a transition here as well. We go back to another promo from that huge match and kind of the disappointment in Mark Briscoe to Mariah May backstage, not kind of wanting to focus on herself, being very happy to be here and that Tony Khan's happy to kind of get her set up, but really still pushing Tony Storm. I think that they're having an issue with Mariah where they want to get her front and center. They want to showcase her right now, but they know it's not the right time to, so they want to keep us invested in her. But I feel like this is falling flat because she's not really gaining anything character-wise or gaining anything ring-wise. I think they need to pull the trigger a little bit here and move her forward just even a notch more than she is.
They don't know how to write for the women at all. They're letting all the women talent kind of flounder, and I don't know. Apparently, it's different on Collision. Apparently, it's going a little better for the women over there, maybe. But it seems like on Dynamite, it's kind of an afterthought. So it's sort of, if you're on Dynamite,
I can speak to Collision a little bit.
Good luck. I should watch. I know there's so many things I should be watching. We review everything.
I can give you I will say, Julia Hart has entered her first official feud after winning the title. And even though I know the challenger's not going to win it, I'm actually very, very happy to see Abaddon be the first challenger for Julia Hart. That's
spooky on spooky.
Spooky on spooky, and I'm kind of here if Abaddon ends up joining Julia at the end of it. That would be really, really fun. I mean, listen, I don't blame Mariah May at all for anything. She's just doing with what, she's doing the best with what she's given with. But Tony Khan, we need to stop pulling out of the WWE toy box. We got to stop because, listen, there will never be another set of wrestlers that can capture the magic that was the Trish Stratus and Mickey James Stalker storyline. Like, that is the most classic example people go to if you want to go to, like, for women's storylines with Stalkers. And nobody has been able to replicate the magic that was. But that's because you had Mickey and you had Trish who oozed charisma. And I feel that this is giving Mariah May with what she's been doing with, I'm like, this is the diet version. I'm like, just let Mariah May be the personality she was in Stardom. Let her be happy-go-lucky, but she's gonna kick your head in. Like,
and I think what you're speaking to, and JVL, please, you're smarter than me, jump on this as well. It seems like Tony Khan is doing that Vince McMahon thing with the women in the sense of fit this mold, do this mold well. I need to shape you in order to use you. And if I can't shape you, I'm going to make you wait until you do it yourself, or until you conform a little, or until the whispers are too loud and I go, oh yeah, Abaddon. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's a little bit of a control thing there where Tony Khan doesn't know what to do. And I don't want to speak too out of pocket, but we're calling out things that we see because this is the content we see.
I disagree with you.
You think so?
I don't think he's cognizant of any of that. I think that the people he's brought in around him, as we've seen from some of the firings this week, they're whispering in his ear, oh, this is what's going to sell. It's going to do this way. Trust me, you want to move more this way to sell more tickets, and it'll get people off your back.
Sure.
And so he's so taken with 4 to 5 different programs he's running, he's not paying attention to it. He just assumes, I'll get the Hour of Women's thing in.
Okay.
People here that have written before and have done this and produced it, I'll trust in their thing instead of trusting in what I know for the people I brought in originally. The complaints have been about AEW a lot lately is it's becoming more like WWE as we're seeing on screen. It's really terrible.
I don't want to say something controversial, but I'm going to anyways. I think my biggest issue with AEW, listen, I'm starting to see the similarities, and that's where I'm going with this. With my issues with Tony Khan aside, I ultimately think he does care about this business. Like, I think
Sure.
he does. I just need, going into 2024, I need Tony Khan to book like a wrestling booker and not a fan, if that makes any sense. And
That's fair.
I love Tony Khan has an investment with his talent. Like, he loves all of them. You can tell, even though he can't cut a promo to save his life because he's reading off cue cards really, really badly.
And he can't blink.
I think Tony Khan has a big heart. I also found that he can be a little bit sensitive to criticism, which is going to happen. And I don't fault him for that. And I actually kind of like that in Tony Khan. Like, he's not afraid to wear his heart on his sleeve. However, if you want this business to thrive, you have to start booking all of your talent in AEW as the perspective of a booker and not a fan. And I love that Tony is a fan of wrestling, because that's how we all ended up doing coming into professional wrestling. And then we decided to review it for somewhat as a hobby / maybe a living. But Tony, as the boss, needs to book AEW talent, both men and specifically the women, Tony. I'm just putting it out there from a booking perspective and not what is going to sell or as a fan, because that's what happened in WWE.
Yeah.
And we had a 3-year period where it's the blackest recess of my soul. Try to purge it from my memory.
I think you two are saying what I said is not mutually exclusive to what you're saying. It's just you said it more articulately, in the sense that, if Tony Khan's looking at it as, I'm a fan, what am I a fan of? Well, then inherently you're going to have this kind of bias, that kind of thing. What would be, as opposed to Booker had what gets this thing going long term. I think, and this is a totally other podcast, and I don't mean to derail us. I'll say this and I won't say anything else. I think the fact that AEW is turning into more of a business exponentially than WWE did. We're year 4? 5? 4? Year 4 of AEW? And then Taz, somewhere in here, is about to say, we've sold $4 million worth of tickets. And I'm like, probably shouldn't just put that out there. But that's just me. But sort of, now money is in the AEW language in a way that it probably wasn't initially. If they were these cool, we're the antidote to the status quo thing, and now we're a big business plan, Wembley and like all these other things. Tony Khan's not stupid. He's a businessman. He was raised around this stuff. So inherently, it's gonna get harder. And I think you're right. The people he's hired around him to whisper what's gonna sell, what's gonna this, in danger of it getting really muddy for 2024.
Which we do not need, including the fact of like this next storyline we had going on here, which is very much reminiscent of the Wyatt family, reminiscent of a lot of, straight to, we don't know who's under the mask, what's going on. We were scheduled to have Samoa Joe and MJF take on the Devil and his friends, but Joe comes down to the ring all ready to go. The lights go out, and you think, House of Black? No, wait, they're on Collision. No, we're getting the Devils all coming out, but they're not wearing devil masks. They're just a bunch of guys in gimp masks walking around, kind of being there and threatening him. And we cut backstage, and MJF has partied too hard. He's fallen down and fallen directly on a bottle, obviously.
Andrew WK'd himself into passing out.
Partied too hard.
Good knowledge. There's not a lot of demographic who's going to get that. Well done, Mikey.
This is where we have.
I was the weirdo in high school.
This is where we have MJF built up to be. Is somebody else the devil? Is he doing anything else? How do we write around our champion having a legitimate injury and keep him on TV because his partner's out?
So something Excalibur said maybe a minute or two before this. I don't know if you all caught it, but I thought it was a wink to the audience. Maybe I'm just a conspiracy theorist.
You are.
He's talking. Words. And that's why he's been so adamant about this. And the way he hit the operative of that word, the way he said it in the context of this, the Devils and Samoa Joe and MJF, I was like, you chose that word out of nowhere. Wait a minute. So part of me goes, are you hinting at it's an atom, one of the atoms involved in AEW now? Because now we got like 3, right? Technically, right? It could. So maybe I'm crazy. Which is out of nowhere to drop that word. I was like, you wait a minute, just as a wink to us. I could be crazy.
No, it makes complete sense to be that crazy about it, because they would lampshade it.
That's a hell of a word to throw out on a Wednesday night in Montreal. I'm just saying.
They would lampshade it like that. Mikey, you were upset about this when we started talking about it. Tell us how you feel about getting a non-match and an angle.
Spicy Mikey. Spicy Mikey.
So this is gonna be a weird take, because Spicy Mikey is gonna be mild, because we just saw some news that was actually pretty good for a little indie promotion called Impact /TNA.
I told you they were an indie.
Well, we'll
Super
talk
indie.
off camera.
Super indie.
I gotta get to the spicy Mikey real quick.
Flame it up, Mikey.
For those of you that did not watch the Full Gear review, I put the whole entire booking decision and the build for Jay White and MJF's title match at Full Gear on blast because you have Jay White the entire time of this feud continue to one-up Max, keep that belt away from him, beat him down with, Bullet Club Gold. Then the horrible through line of that pay-per-view only for MJF to literally be Diet John Cena, LOL, I win. Irritates me to beyond belief. I get that you want to keep MJF as fresh as possible and not, extend any injuries that he's currently dealing with. But I'm going to put MJF to the side real quick because MJF is going to be fine. The internet wrestling community and the AEW fandom are going to worship the ground that this man walks on regardless of what I say. The one person I feel really bad for in this situation is Samoa Joe because he was a champion at one point. He was the he is the longest reigning, or he was the longest reigning Ring of Honor World Television Champion. And then he gave it up so he can have a match with Max at World's End. But this whole entire thing of him trying to protect Max because the insurance policy, he wants Max at 100% so he could take that title off of him fair and square, which I'm here for because Mojo version of fair and square is not the version that we use. But I love Joe because he don't care about that. But again, we're throwing... this is the same issue I had with the black hole that was the Jericho Appreciation Society storylines. Every time we got a new one with them, this is the MJF version of what I am going to call, MJF meets World, but like the very not like horrible B-grade version of Boy Meets World. Like this is just a 90s sitcom written all over it. It's bad. It's not great writing. You continue to have very thinly strengthened story threads leading into whatever it is. We have key players that haven't showed up, which I swear, if the theory of what people say of who's underneath those Max comes true, then what does that mean for Collision storylines that we're getting? So we're going to pull those people off of those storylines when they're actually interesting to come on over to this horrid reboot of MJF Meets the World, or As the MJF World Turn. I don't freaking... This is worse than the Spanish telenovela or the general hospital soap operas out there.
Well, at least on those, the convention. So it's not surprising. You just kind of go, oh, we're here now. With wrestling, we want more from the moment, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think what sucks is that not if, but when Joe takes this title off of MJF at World's End, yes, I said it. To me, that's the only choice I would be okay with to get this lukewarm build of what we're getting for. It's not helping Joe in any capacity. We have too many key players. And now all of a sudden you decided to take Hangman off of Swerve for a little bit because Swerve is dealing with the Continental Classic, which we'll talk about him in a little bit.
What if it's Samoa Joe?
I hate that idea.
I mean, they were adamant that it wasn't. So
it was Samoa Joe all along.
It's my evil twin, Hawaiian
My
Joe.
biggest hope is when he's cleared, I want this to be orchestrated by Adam Cole because narratively, this makes the most sense. It makes no sense for... If Joe ends up being the mastermind behind this, and yes, this is going to give me some hate, but if Joe ends up being the mastermind, this is the saddest reveal since the TNA Aces and Eights storylines. It's getting to that level of absurdity, overproduction, horrible writing. Like, this should have ended at Full Gear with Jay White taking the title off of MJF, so MJF can go and get what he needs to heal up and come back for 2024.
I don't think it's Samoa Joe. I'm just kind of being a shithead because I knew Mikey would get spicy. I will say,
love it.
If it's Adam Cole, how has that ever been anything Adam Cole has been, though? Why do it like this?
Okay, so let me put. So I have my writer's hat on, right?
Because you still have the Kingdom, you still have this Roderick Strong stuff, and this is not the tangent we need because we have to do this in a tight 90 minutes, right? But I'm just saying, like, if that's Adam Cole, I don't know. That's just as much of a question mark to me as if it is Samoa Joe.
Okay, really quickly, let me give you the Spark Notes versions of how I would write this.
Fix it, Mikey. Fix it.
So I would still have Adam Cole be the reveal. Now, obviously, I would have pulled the trigger sooner but since he busted an ankle jumping off a ramp that he didn't need to, and the ramp that shouldn't have been there to begin with.
Thank you, Arthur Ashe.
Grand Slam is always cursed. Somebody always gets hurt at Grand Slam in that tiny little tennis court stadium, but that's besides the point. Because, remember, prior to the buddy cop feel-good moments that we got all summer long with Adam Cole and MJF, they hated each other's guts. And when Adam Cole and MJF went to a time draw in their match for that championship on Dynamite, and MJF did not give Adam Cole another chance because he asked for 5 more minutes, and MJF's is like, no, bro, I'm not going to give it to you. And then they got paired. So here's what I would do. It's revealed that Adam Cole is the mastermind, and then he explains some like behind the scenes, like made up shenanigans. Like, I made sure that me and you were teamed up for this tournament. I knew where everybody was going to be. It was just like, you think Roderick and the Kingdom are a part of this? No, I manipulated my friendship with Rod. I just need Adam Cole to be a dick. That's what I want Adam Cole to be. If he's this ultimate dick where he uses everybody and anybody, including his best friends of Roderick Strong and his ties to the Kingdom, then that's the best way you can get the storyline. And MJF's like, oh my gosh, I can't actually have friends because they always turn on me. And then Roderick's like, yo, MJF, you're kind of not that bad of a guy. So it's like, we'll deal with our stuff later. But the only way this works is if Adam Cole is the super mastermind and he just is revealed to be a complete dick and he used everybody and anybody. I told Wardlow about this. I brought him back. Not really, but I gathered all of your enemies so that way I can take you out, knock you down a peg because you think you're better than everybody else. Well, guess what? Adam Cole is better than you, baby. And then decks him in the face. Use the tag team name against him. I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, you can use anything to get there. There's so many permutations it could be, but Adam Cole makes sense in the fact that like using MJF's own thing against him would be the person that was closest to him at that point throughout the entire year. That's why he's turning it against him. Who knows if they'll write themselves back out of this corner or not. It doesn't seem like they're going to get anywhere near it, but they at least have a writer working on this, unlike our next promo where Moxley just went off sideways. And it took Swerve coming in to get him back on track.
Can we talk about like the first 5 seconds? Because it was just quiet and I was like, oh, he's about to say something profound. You know, I'm only humble before God and my mother. I was just like, never mind.
That's a Vince McMahon line right there.
Oh, easily. I think Jon Moxley his promos are starting to go into that Ultimate Warrior territory, right? Where it's just, he's just a few years away from like, you know, UFOs make me laugh. Swerve, I hate you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no reason to say some of the things that Jon Moxley says sometimes. And he's overly intense. I don't dislike Jon. I'm a huge Jon Moxley fan. It's just, I wonder if he's trolling us because it's so intentional at this point. And you kind of see elements of that here. It's like, what are you doing?
He's in general trying to amp up the rest of the show around him by being the most unhinged he can be. And I feel like it's building to something, but I don't know what. But I feel like he's more pent up like this when he hasn't bled for a couple days.
That's how he gets his release. It's like, make me bleed. I don't care how. Knock a tooth out.
He's got a jar of leeches to keep himself going. Just like some money.
Renee, apply.
Oh, what are
as
you
you
doing?
stated, Swerve comes in and saved this. This is where I have another bone to pick with AEW right now.
Ooh.
You know, this has been the saddest year because I remember that Winter is Coming used to be one of my favorite AEW events they would put on during the winter. It's supposed to be this big thing. This is like a wet fart of a build towards Winter is Coming.
Oh, come on. You're not excited about the Von Erichs, the 3 remaining ones?
Hell the fuck no.
I'm excited to see that movie.
Yeah,
I'm intrigued by that.
The fact that MJF has executive producer credit makes me happy. I was like, look at you, wrestling talent. Let's get this resume out here. But
and it was Chavo was the guy on set, right? Was doing all the fights.
Yep, exactly.
But this is the bone I have to pick with this. I wanted this match to be the last match heading into be like, all right, mathematically, these are the only two that are left. So now we're going to have a slobber knocker to determine who's going into the finals to face the winner of the Blue League.
With that kung fu kick.
And this, honestly, is literally going to test my enthusiasm heading into World's End, because there's only one choice, and I don't care, because I am the lone brown boy on this panel right now. If Swerve Strickland does not win next week over Jon Moxley, I'm actually going to be upset, not because, once again, POC wrestlers don't get the shine they deserve, but the way that you built up Swerve over the last couple of months, you better not take this rocket off him. I need Swerve to win the Gold League here. He needs to beat Jon Moxley, because I love Mox, but he doesn't need to win.
I feel a draw coming on.
I will take that too. I just do not want Moxley to beat Swerve.
So does the winner of Gold fight the winner of Blue?
Yep.
Yeah.
Eventually?
They're fighting for supremacy of which team gets to be Professor X's favorite.
But essentially, the winner of the Gold League and the winner of the Blue League will face off at World's End to become the inaugural Triple Crown champion. And please let it be Kingston versus Swerve. That is what I predicted at the very beginning of this tournament. I need Eddie to start picking up wins here.
I only played Sapphire, so I don't know these guys.
How dare you? I picked Emerald.
I was always a diamond run. Either way, another diamond in the rough that came up tonight, though. This is a huge thing and a huge get for Tony Khan.
Good, man.
I'm doing what I can. I'm trying my best. Big get for Tony Khan. He put out the money to get Ben Mankiewicz from TCM to come on and intro this.
This ruled. Ruled.
Every film nerd watching went, let's go!
This is so awesome. This was my match of the night. For as weird as it was, this was goofy wrestling at its best. I love the Tower of Power of Tony Storm and Luther.
Yes!
You know, everything about it was great. The one knock I had in this match was that I think that in the ring, cutting the black and white when you just have Tony framed up is a little jarring, a little too much, because it's going back and forth too much. But I will say exactly my thought overall. Tony Storm, while getting all of these 20 starlets and everything else that she's putting out there, she is the most gorgeous George of any wrestler there has been in years. Full on,
absolutely.
30s, big quaff, full on stuff. Go, girl, go. Match of the night.
No one's doing this big over-the-top character. People are trying. No one's doing it like this. I mean, this has, not to invoke the names of horrible people, but, Ted DiBiase style, Honky Tonk Man style, Shawn Michaels style. Make it huge, and the character is bigger than the event, and that's hard to sell, but they're doing it with the black and white. They're doing it with all these plays and things. I will say, embarrassing, I was watching this at the gym, and I paused it, which was a mistake, and put my phone down for a second to fill up my water as people were walking by, not realizing it was just hip attack, freeze frame.
Okay, can we talk about that?
As folks walk by, oh, sorry, I'm watching wrestling. No, I'm at the gym. I'm not that guy. What are you doing?
Speaking of hip attack, can we talk about how devastating it sounded when she hip attacked Sky in the barricade corner? I'm like,
God, she took a year off. Well, I mean, that one, Sky rolling into Tony Storm, that whiplash was like, oh, whoa.
That was vicious.
You almost knocked the highlights out of her hair.
I know. This was my second favorite match of the night, and this was really tough, but I went with Mark and Swerve as my match of the night. But you know what? This match was awesome, and then I screamed at my television in excitement because one of my favorite OGs is back, and I was so happy to see my little Pitts Heat Riho make a come back.
Can I ask a continuity question though? Riho appears, she's getting all geared up to go fly over to Tony. Luther saves Tony, which I loved as well, carrying her off. The title was still in the ring. Riho didn't raise it up. Riho didn't do anything with it. Tony left it behind.
How dare she?
What does that mean? Where's Mariah grabbing it to do her eye line with it? What's going on with this?
Yeah, okay, so this is a continuity question too, because didn't Mariah say during her thing she's going to be out there for Tony's match? And
she was. She was.
Okay. I was like, I must have blinked or something.
You did. But no, overall, this match was For all of the fact that they do not push the women on these shows, this was an amazing women's match for the one for the hour we got. Tony can be on with a title, without a title, it can carry part of it. Take this win, Tony Khan, and expand it. You have so much more to give, and you could do it better than what we got for half of this show. Yes, we're getting a great tournament going on, but honestly, we could fill it with women's tournament, we could fill it with anything else, and have a Continental Classic of their own, and it would be even better.
Yeah.
Riho's back. Riho's back.
I don't know enough about Riho. I'm excited.
The original AEW Women's Champion, Joshi Legend, Riho.
Yep, the first
I didn't know
AEW
any of you then. I believe you. I've heard
Honestly,
of.
my favorite feud of hers at the very beginning stages of AEW was when her and Nyla Rose feuded. Like, that feud was amazing.
Oh,
that's because Nyla ragdolled her, like took her to town, and she still came back from it.
It was beautiful.
So we move on from Riho. It's an amazing, return. We've got all these great things going on. So many people moving in different ways, and we get Jay versus Jay and the Let's Go Jay chants, which I knew was going to happen.
So good. We were talking about this before the air. Montreal was on it. Like, these chants were hysterical. Jay, you suck. Go, Jay, go.
Oh.
Jay, you suck. It's like, oh, this is so. Jay.
Let's go, Jay. Let's go, Jay.
Once again, commentary did not help this match. I was upset.
They left it alone like another. Like it seems like they've given up on both of these guys, Jay White especially, and it's terrible.
I was
because
so mad they gave up on Jay White. I was like, how dare you give up on this Kiwi over here, bro? Like, what's happening?
Well, he's a very wet-mouthed Kiwi because he was foaming at the mouth again. Like, how much spit
I was like, bro. I was
gonna ask,
Jay White, are we okay?
Is that a thing? Is that what he does?
Apparently, he's done it for the last couple of matches where he just gets so into it where he's foaming at the mouth. It's like, holy cow.
Get that checked. That's a thing.
Or drink some water.
I think it's a side effect of...
Drink some water.
I think it's a side effect of how poorly booked that feud with MJF was, because literally all the news outlets reported it last week that Jay White was vocally adamant about hating the whole build to MJF, him and his MJF's match at Full Gear.
So they put rabies in his water? Like, that's not fair.
I mean, that was the money shot of the night.
It was beautiful.
That was kind of I was like, what happened to you?
That was really, really close to being the thumbnail, but we get demonetized.
We would, yeah.
I mean, yeah, if it didn't look a lot like, yeah. No, you're
Again,
not.
These two worked really well together. Jay Lethal looked like 15 years younger against this guy. Like, Jay White carried his ass through this, and it was really fun to see.
I thought this was a fun match. This should have been the match to start AEW Dynamite. This was more fun to me. I know it's Moxley. I gotta watch. It's must see, whatever. But this could have started off the night just as much as that other one. And in fact, I think the first half of this is cleaner than the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they're doing it, what they're feeling out. This one, I don't know how much time they had to plan or talk or rehearse or the things that wrestlers do when these things come up. This felt a lot like, hey, let's just go for it. I'll support you. What do you want to do? And they're calling a few shots here and there. You can kind of see that.
Two veterans. I mean, they're going to do that.
Yeah. There's a few, they kind of repeated themselves a little bit, which I think became a gag that they were just kind of going back and forth with, which I don't hate. But yeah, you're right. I don't know why the audience was all in on this. The crowd loved it. The commentators just kind of went,
Both you boys have a standing invitation. If there is a wrestling show in Montreal, come up and stay with me. We'll drive up and see it. You need to experience Canadian wrestling.
How close are you?
He literally drove across the border to Elimination Chamber. Him and Jesse did.
I'm 2 hours from Montreal.
I forget you're that. Wow.
There's a reason Burlington calls itself an international airport, because we fly 2 hours to Montreal.
Are you closer to there than New York?
I'm closer there than New York and closer there than Boston.
Oh, you just cooked my brain. Really?
Professor, me and you we gotta plan some stuff out now. I gotta look at my bank account and see if it's set up correctly.
Man.
We got dates on when AEW is traveling Canada in 2024.
Yeah, I can't.
They're making their Canadian tour. It's gonna be ridiculous, and they're gonna have these two next men in the final event headlining this entire thing, because they're gonna fight forever for this entire thing. We had Christian Cage and his Patriarchy taking on Adam Copeland for the TNT title, and boys, we had a swerve that I really don't think is a swerve at the end of this. This was a big battle, but you saw this coming, and I don't think this changes anything at all.
Go ahead. Do you have? I don't want to cut you off.
No, I'll let you go. Go for it.
So I'll say this, you two can, I think you two will agree with me. There's a certain polish that Adam and Christian have, probably from 20 plus years in WWE. There's a lovely sense of chemistry they have and building these things, and this match felt like a WWE match. It didn't feel like an AEW match, and I can kind of see the two different polishes and styles now. This wasn't as, it kind of got there by the end, and we can talk about that if we want to, the sort of violence and viciousness and whatever else.
Frenetic pace, yeah.
Yeah, the pacing of it and all that other stuff. I thought it was a great match. There's some moments in the middle where it just felt like two best friends in a backyard, which I was okay with. I think this deserved more than a Dynamite because it came off as an afterthought. I think, and I love that it was on Dynamite. It made me happy. I didn't have to wait 6 months for a pay-per-view or something. But I think they needed a little more time. I think they needed maybe a stipulation or two, maybe to put them over the edge a little bit. And as far as how it ended, I don't know where it fell flat to me.
Okay. No, that's very valid to go with it there. Spicy Mikey's sitting there with all the teeth showing, so I kind of want to get his side of this.
Yeah, Mikey's got a lot of teeth.
A lot of teeth. I mean, yes, go ahead, Spicy Mikey. Finish us out.
Spicy Mikey works very hard to make sure I keep all of them intact.
As you wipe your mouth from all the spices that's coming.
I'm channeling my inner Jay White.
Just
frothing at the mouth.
Don't get us demonetized. Keep going, Mikey, go.
Too late. Anyways, all right. So, now that we have topped that off, so to speak, here's the thing. I agree with the professor that I thought this was a fun match. I knew it was going to be fun. You literally have 2 weeks until World's End. You couldn't have waited to build this first encounter there?
They were in Canada.
Again, I don't care. You're getting Kenny Omega and Ethan Page on Saturday. Calm down. Like, that's, if I'm being completely honest, that's the match I'm more excited about than I was for this one. I thought this was going to be a fun match, but again, I feel like we rushed the writing of the story to get to this point way too quickly. Again, we just had the team of Adam Copeland, Sting, and Darby beat the Patriarchy at Full Gear, which was less. Need I remind you, only 2 weeks ago. Yes, Full Gear was 2 weeks ago. And within the span of the 2 weeks, what did we do? We dismantled Nick Wayne with a concerto, which was very heelish of Adam Copeland to do. I was like, bro, it's been 2 weeks. I understand you're angry, but you won at Full Gear. What should have happened is that, again, I'm not working for AEW, but they should book me. I'm saying. I would have at least, if you're not going to go through Kill Switch and the Prodigy Nick Wayne.
Fucking Saurus. Sorry,
Yes.
that's my F-pump of the day.
Taz used both.
I know.
They used both names. It doesn't matter if you have two. I'm sorry.
I know what I was doing. I did it on purpose because I knew it would give JVL a rise.
No,
I said my F-bomb for the night. I'm happy.
Yep.
because Taz did this. Taz was like, Luchasaurus, aka Kill Switch. It's like they didn't even care that the name had changed.
No, so what I would have done is, if you're not going to extend this out to a couple of pay-per-views, honestly, I would have built this as a roadmap. I would have had Luchasaurus be the Roadblock #1 at World's End, and then you build up to him versus Nick Wayne, and if not, you can do something. You still got Sting around, but, you know, Sting is promoting Woo Energy at some point, so me and Adolfo talked about it in Rampage and Collision. We don't need to talk about it here.
No, and I don't want to make it sound like we're shitting on this match. There's some really cool
No,
spots.
I'm totally shitting on this match from a storytelling perspective because
from
the match
story
itself in ring
rate,
was
yeah.
fun, but they poo-pooed all over the writing for the story because we pulled the trigger way too quickly. I felt like what should have been like an 8-episode Netflix series got condensed to 2 because they ran out of budget.
Sure.
They
I can see that.
Kenobi'd it.
And what's
So-
hard is, and there's some spots in here that deserve something bigger than Dynamite.
Again,
the dual
double
spear thing.
if you weren't going to have the long roadmap where it would have been Adam Copeland and Christian at Revolution, You could have at least waited to World's End to do this match because it's on a pay-per-view. But again, like JVL said, we're in Canada, so let's throw the Canadians on the roster we have on here. If I'm being completely honest, and I know this is just me being petty, I would have rather saw Taya come out and main event something, because she is a better Canadian wrestler, in my opinion, than these two. I don't know. Well, technically, spoiler alert, she is on Ring of Honor television this week, so I'm kind of happy.
Always good to see that.
But they poo-pooed over the story. Nick Wayne's mom. Listen, I love Nick Wayne's mom. She kind of fire. I love her.
She got it going on.
Yes.
Nick Wayne's mom
has got it going on. And you know what? I want to defend her choice here because everyone's hating. It's like, why would you turn on Adam Copeland? I was like, he concertoed her child in front of her on live television last week. That's Mama Bear instincts taking it in. Now, granted, she still don't like Christian Cage, but come on now. Like, how are we getting mad at this? I would make the same decision. If you concertoed my child in front of it, whether he deserved it or not, it's a different story. As a parent, which I am not, I don't claim to be, but if I was a parent, I would want to get a lick back for my child.
Well, also, in that same moment, as we get back to, like, not the storytelling, but what's going on in the ring, Christian's confused O-face by seeing her do that was the funniest thing I've seen in quite a while.
Christian is the best heel outside of, for the men, I should say.
Oh, sure.
Yes. See that moment? I think Stacy's mom was playing in his head, and I think he may have, he got excited for a variety of reasons.
Do I like live moms?
He's like, but does that betray the dead dad thing I got going on?
That's what I was gonna say. Is I wonder if Christian Cage leans on it. I don't know, but there's something too about not having a dad and then the mom and the thing and the thing. I think that could be kind of funny. I agree. I do feel this is a little rushed. I do think it's kind of what we were echoing what we talked about with Tony Khan earlier, where it was like, I have all these toys, I want to use them all now, and what better place than Montreal? It's like, well, okay, well now here's this problem. I don't know. Again, the match itself is not bad.
No.
They are great.
Yeah.
It's the context of where we're going, which is kind of rough. But I also think that Christian and Edge don't care. They got their money. Edge has Adam has the contract, and now they can hang out and be friends and do whatever they want, and their families are happy and they're working together. Like, everything works out for them.
It really does. They are living the life that they wanted to live 4 years ago during that Royal Rumble appearance, right. And they both got back in there. So that was Dynamite for us, folks. We closed that night in Montreal as we did. We've kind of gone over every little bit that we've talked about and what we liked and didn't like. But generally, we have one last piece here, which is, what would you rate this on the empanada scale? Because that's what people want to know. We'll start with Mikey. We'll go to the professor. We'll end with me. Mikey, how many empanadas did you inhale during this entire Dynamite?
Despite Spicy Mikey coming out in full force twice throughout this episode of Dynamite.
Oh, I love it when Mikey returns.
Yes. The jaded Mikey is what everyone's been wanting to see. I'm entering my heel turn, you guys.
Hence the hat.
So, I'm channeling my inner Angelico.
Oh, I thought you were doing Jake Hager. Sorry about that.
Nah, Angelico's better. Jake Hager can suck a duck. So, out of 5 empanadas, I'm going to give this a solid, 3. I think, again, and I say this every single week, I think the tournament is probably one of the best ideas that AEW has done in 2023. It's adding something fresh. I know this was the brainchild for Danielson because he couldn't compete in the G1, so let's have our own G1. I also appreciate that he doesn't want to win his league because that's not what he's here for. And, Danielson is the most selfless person that I know in and out of the ring. I thought the wrestling was pretty good. I enjoyed pretty much every single match, including our main event. There's just a lot of storytelling. I was like, AEW's biggest problem for me this year, and that's kind of why it's a 3 out of 5. The wrestling is always phenomenal. I think the wrestling, for the most part, is always solid on Dynamite. Where it falls flat, and it has been since the beginning of the summer, is that we're shotgunning our way from story point to story point. We're getting to where we're going with feuds, but instead of murder board style connecting every little bit of detail to get there logically, even in the more conspiracy sense, We're literally just taking a shotgun, blowing all the shells into the wall to see how many things stick to it.
Pepe Silva. Who's Pepe Silva? Pepe Silva. All this mail keeps coming to Pepe Silva.
But 3 out of 5 for me. Solid wrestling, piss poor storytelling.
Mikey's pissed. All right, John. Let's see.
I'm kind of in the same wheelhouse. 7 out of 10 empanadas, 3 upper 3 empanadas out of the 5 scale. I agree. The writing brings it down. And then taking points away because, again, 1 women's match, 2 women's promos. Come on, Tony Khan. You know this by now. I love letting Tony Storm ride. I think that's great. I think Edge and Christian are just going to kind of do whatever they want, no pressure, so they're not going to worry too much about story. They're just going to kind of live it up in the stage that they're in, so hopefully that won't, I don't think that would diminish anything, but you're right, writing-wise, it's kind of funny that we dissect writing in pro wrestling. In the sense that, you know, we are in this fantastical place. However, if you're going to have the convention of, you know, these plot lines, we're going to find the holes in the things that don't matter. I am a little bummed about I was looking forward to MJF, Samoa Joe, and the Devils. I was actually looking really forward to that. And you're right, I did want a little bit more of the Edge and Christian thing. But if as a telenovela, it makes me want to watch next week. And if that's their job, that's what they do. So I'm at that 7 out of 10 place.
For me, this I'm kind of close by as well. I was more of like, you know, a 17 out of 20. You know, because we're going stacking up the empanadas as we go, which is more like a 7 out of 10.
You ate way more empanadas than we did.
I was a hungry boy today, and I enjoyed driving through that there. But then I had to throw a couple up. It was just a bad overall feeling from bad writing, 1 women's match, so I had to drop it down.
Sure.
So in the 5, it ends up becoming instead of a 3 out of 5, a 2 out of 5. It's not the fault of any one of the performers. It's just that Tony Khan is not using his wrestlers in an efficient and better way, and it has been shown on other properties he has that he can do it. So it's really, there's no excuse for it.
Sure.
This was a ride. We are getting deep into this tournament now, and I am looking forward to reviewing more of this tournament, more of it with you both. And just in general, thank you for being here, for giving your opinions on it. For Mikey, for the Professor, I am JVL. Remember here at the Biconics Wrestling Podcast that you are Biconic. We're all Biconic for loving and imbibing this amazing art form. And we'll see you on the next video.